Okay, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. Good afternoon and welcome to our World Now conference. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Ehsan Ahmadi, and you probably know me. I'm Assistant Professor of Business Analytics at Our Lady of the Lake University. Dr. Mehami from Houston, and I will be hosting this presentation today. Dr. Mehami, would you want to have a quick introduction of yourself?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reza Mehami. I'm Assistant Professor of Management at Department of Business, and I'm working at Houston campus. As Dr. Ahmadi said, first of all, I want to thank you for participating in this session. Today we have two great speakers that they are going to talk about the impact of COVID on their business. I will be checking the chat box. If you find any question, please let us know or put them in the chat box. We will answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mehami. So as Dr. Mehami mentioned, we have two special guests today. Mr. Jose Trevino, who is currently interim vice president of generation operations at CPS Energy. Jose is a graduate of OLU MBA program class of 2012. And the second guest is Mr. Isaac Alfaro. He is currently a senior business systems analyst at Rush Enterprise. He is graduate of OLU MBA program class of 2009. Our guest speaking today about the impact of COVID-19 on their business operations and the way they are handling this crisis. So please let me welcome Mr. Jose Trevino. He will be presenting about the COVID impacts on their business, about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we will be moving forward with Mr. Isaac Alfaro. So the floor is yours, Mr. Jose.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm Jose Trevino. Thank you for inviting me to come here and speak to you a little bit about what we've been doing over the past year at CPS Energy with relation to COVID, but specifically just all the adjustments we had to make with our employees, and then also ensuring that we were able to continue to support our customers throughout the past year. So for those of you not familiar with CPS Energy, not sure if everybody's from San Antonio or not, but we are the electric and gas provider for pretty much the most part of San Antonio and some of the surrounding areas as well. And so every month you should receive a little bit of correspondence from us, of course, in the form of a bill, but nonetheless, we're always there to support our customers, and so I'll talk through some of the things that we have worked through this past year. Okay, so I'll talk again about this past year and just some of the things that we're still going through, right? Of course, the pandemic is not over, and so our business has to continue to change, and we have to continue to motivate our employees to stay engaged and work in the environment that we have been. And so again, we continue to evolve even a year later. I'll go through my bio and then kind of go into what our usual process is, right? So we're a utility. We provide a service in the form of electricity or gas, but we also have a lot of other things that we do around the company, and so our normal way of working really had to change, and we had to adjust. So what was the change that was needed, or a lot of our challenges that we ran into? I'll go through some of those and just how we are continuing to change. A little bit about me. So I am a U.S. Navy veteran. Actually obtained my bachelor's here in San Antonio. I went to UTSA, and I'm an electrical engineer. Ended up joining the submarine force in the Navy and was active duty from 2001 through 2010. So right after I left the Navy, I actually was able to join CPS Energy back in 2010. I started my career there at CPS Energy in the power generation business at the power plants. Not sure if you're from San Antonio, we have a couple lakes down south heading towards Corpus, Calaveras Lake and Bronick Lake, and we use those as cooling reservoirs for our power generation plants we have down there. And so started my career down there. Have been very fortunate to move around the company, and here recently was able to come back to the team out at the power generation sites, and now I'm able to oversee the operations out there at the plants. So San Antonio's home for me. I'm a Breckenridge High School grad and attended UTSA and Our Lady of the Lake. Did the weekend program. Graduated from that back in 2012. Really great program, allowed me to go to school while I was working at CPS Energy. So very appreciative of that. And it's been brought me a lot of good things since I went through that program. So our usual process. So CPS Energy, again, gas and electric provider, but our practices have always been that our employees report to work. We have customer walk-in centers, not only for bill support and paying your bills, but all the construction that's going on around town. Our folks, we have designers, we have engineers, we have the construction crews, everybody that supports all that. The normal way of doing work is you show up to work and you support customers, or you go out into the field and build new lines or go and do maintenance on lines. Or in the case of my power plant folks, they go and they are there to operate the plants, ensure that they start up and operate as we need them to ensure that we have power and gas to all our customers here throughout our CPS Energy region. So with all that being said, when COVID started to hit last year, we really had to rethink everything we do. Not only did it impact how we interacted with our customers, it impacted how we interacted with ourselves within the company. So at our customer walk-in centers, all right, we always maintained our centers open, which is very impressive, thinking of all the hurdles that we have to jump through, right? And it was very stressful, right? We didn't really understand, and I think there's still a lot of things that we don't understand quite, like sometimes how things spread with COVID, right? And so trying to keep our customers safe, trying to keep our employees safe, our customer walk-in centers were a real challenge, but we were able to maintain them open to be able to allow us to support our customers still throughout the whole time. But it went from setting up temperature check stations as you come in, ensuring that we cleaned all the workstations for our employees, ensuring that if somebody was, having our employees going to work still, if somebody was exposed to somebody who maybe was sick, setting up those protocols on how we ensured that we didn't have any kind of spread at work. And so it really changed the way we did things at the customer walk-in centers. Customer meetings, we meet with customers still today. Everything's transitioned to what we're doing right now. It's a WebEx, right? But that wasn't the norm at all. So imagine having a group of all your employees that meet with customers on a daily basis, but now you have to transition to be able to having to do it this way virtually. It might seem easy for us now, like to have a presentation up here and go through this, but a lot of our workforce wasn't prepared for that. They've never had to use WebEx. They've never had to do things in presentation mode. And they're used to sitting across the table from somebody and having drawings out or schematics of our system out, and they can talk to it and point at it and be in the same room and kind of figure things out that way. All that had to change, right? And so a lot of change with our folks, a lot of change with our customers, because it was very frustrating for them as well, because they were used to how we did things before, right? And so we definitely had a lot of big learning curve and a lot of growing pains there, but that was just some of the things that we had to adjust to. Our 24-hour operations. So we have different areas of the company that work 24 hours. Our crews that respond to gas leaks, that respond to when we have power outages, those folks are 24-hour operations. My folks that run the plants, we always have to have power out there. We always have to ensure that if we do have an issue out in the system, that somebody has a power outage, that we have to be able to switch things around to keep folks on. And so there's constantly people at our company that are working 24-hour operations. So you start to work in the COVID environment, and now you're wanting to ensure that we can separate our folks and have it set up where they can, they're there all the time, so they have to be able to eat, right? And so even just eating locations became very important. How do you separate people enough that they're not right next to each other when they're going to eat? And how do you change practices that we had where different groups of our team would go into certain control areas, and now you're having to change that, right? And so we had to really rethink about our eating locations and how we spread out our tables, even of our cafeterias. And so that was also a change we went through. Driving practices. Most of the things that we do as crews. We have several groups that'll work together as a group. Well, then now in the environment of having COVID, right, none of them live at home together, so we need to ensure that everybody's protected. So we all wear a face mask at work, and having to go through those challenges, right? Of our teams are very cohesive, right? They work together all the time. So getting them to the point where they understood that, hey, we work at work together. And so I understand that everybody's comfortable with each other, but we have to remember that in this environment, we still need to be careful and cautious. And so as comfortable as we may be with each other, we still need to wear a face mask around each other. And so that included as we're driving to different job sites. So definitely a big change in our culture, and ensuring that our employees were getting used to that, right, and getting ourselves there. But that was a big change. Group and team meetings internally, again, for example, with my plants out at the different power stations, we have maintenance that happens every day. We have groups of teams that work together, and they kind of collaborate to make sure that we have a good plan in place. A lot of that was in person and in our conference rooms. So having to change that to where we do phone conferences or WebExes or even team meetings with Paula, our CEO, if she wants to talk to all of us. We've all transitioned over to having those kind of meetings virtually. So a lot of changes. Right. So our changes that we needed, right, having the right equipment. Kind of spoke a little bit to folks not being used to that. Well, on top of folks not being used to working remotely or working virtually, we didn't have the right equipment for everybody. So getting the right equipment, getting that all set up was a big challenge at the beginning for us, right? And being able to get our employees to be able to work from home with different security um, things that we had to worry about, right? Just working through those environments, ensuring that people could get into our systems. It's one thing that you log into work and you take it for granted, right? That we have all our security protocols set up there. So it's very easy to go and open a file at work, and it works just fine for us. But now imagine taking that home, and now we need to make sure we extend that, right? So a lot of challenges came from that. But again, as we look back now, it's like second nature for us, right? Now we all are kind of in our groove, and we understand everything that we have to do. But back then, that was a huge thing. Training gaps on our technology. Um, a lot of our workforce is used to working on things that they've worked on their whole career. So you think it's pretty simple um, moving over into a virtual environment, but just think of how many platforms right now we're on WebEx, and so it's very easy for me to know that, hey, I know how to share it because I use WebEx all the time. But now move that over to Teams or move that over to a Zoom. And so as we started evaluating all these different ways of using technology, we had a lot of training gaps with our folks. And so it was painful. I think a lot of folks still, the mute button gets everybody. I think it gets me at least once a day, if not twice. And I'll say a whole spiel, and I realize at the end that I'm still on mute. So it's still frustrating till now, but still everybody goes through that, I think. The bandwidth of our technologies, right? We quickly learned that you gotta have bandwidth to be able to even be on WebExes, for example, right? We can't have everybody with their camera on, or it'll slow down sometimes. You'll kind of see a little bit of a slowdown on our screens, and so just learning through some of those things. 24-hour coverage changes, right? We changed our crew configurations with our work group limitations. We ended up changing how many folks we had on a crew, because we started to get folks that maybe we didn't have people that were sick, but maybe some of their family members were sick, and so they had to tend to them, or we would precautionarily quarantine them. Well, that ended up limiting how many folks we would have in our groups, and so we had to rethink how many people we had in our teams so that we could still go out and provide service to our customers. And then, of course, keeping our workplace safety at top of mind, right? So ensuring that we took care of ourselves, and we're very thoughtful on everything that we did, and we were careful about how we did our work, and ensuring that we kept our customers and our employees safe. That's always at the top of our mind, but going through the change, right, and having a lot of folks work remotely, just ensuring that we kept everybody informed and communicated with everybody so that they felt like they were still part of the team. That was probably one of our biggest things that we wanted to ensure as leaders that we continue to do. A year later, we're still evolving, still trying to keep our employees engaged. Fatigue. They talk about, COVID fatigue, right? That folks are getting tired of being home maybe, or not being able to interact more. But we kind of want to make sure that we keep our folks engaged, because this fatigue that we can all go through can lead to complacency, and we just need to ensure that we keep safety top of mind, and keep our health and well-being top of mind as well. Adapting our processes to fit the new working practices, right? So now it's nothing for our customers to know that if we want to get one of the customer meetings done, it's going to be WebEx. Very impressive to see our folks go through the process of looking at drawings and looking at all those things with our customers. Our customers are used to that now, and so I think some of them still don't like it, but they know that, hey, we're going to keep things going, and this is the best that we can do right now. And so it's really worked well, and I think our customers appreciate that we were able to pivot and continue to work for them. We're focused on improving our customer experiences. We're always looking at the way we have our crew set up. Is that still working? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can support our customers in every way we can. And so we're constantly focused on how else can we improve. And then, of course, our initial challenges that we had at the beginning with our software, some of our training, all those things, right? It's become more of the norm, right? And so we're all able to jump on a meeting very quickly and do all those things now, and it's kind of just it's what we do, right? And so very interesting to see. A lot of us have conversations now about, as we come out of the pandemic, right? I think this is going to change our work practices forever now, right? And so a lot of our folks, I think, are going to expect that it's at least some form of being able to work from home, because it's definitely proved that we can do that, right? And so definitely something that we're looking at, and we're constantly communicating with our employees. And last thing I put in there, communication has been key, right? As we've all had to work separately without really interacting too much, we've wanted to ensure that we keep in touch with our employees. So if anything, virtually, we meet with them all the way from Paula down to our chiefs, to our executives. We always ensure that we meet with our team members and check on them, and we'll have smaller group meetings just so we can turn our cameras on, because I think it's important for us to see each other and ensure that everybody's safe and taking care of themselves. as best we can, right? And so definitely it's been a challenging year, but we've been very, very fortunate, to have the leadership that we do and the employees that we do. Everybody's done really great, and super proud of everything that we've done in the past year to continue to support the community. I think that's my presentation. I can pass it back. I'm not sure if we're going to go to both presentations and then do a Q&A session, or what we're going to do, but I'll pass it back.
Thank you, Jose, for the great presentation. Yes, so we continue with the next presentation, and then after that, we open up the floor for Q&A session. So now it's time to welcome Mr. Isaac Alfaro. So I'm gonna make you a presenter. Isaac, you should now be able to share your content and start your presentation. Do you see the share content at your screen?
I do, yes. Let me go ahead and get this going here on my side.
Folks, if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to post it in a chat box. We will be collecting the questions and then ask them in the Q&A session.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you, Isaac. Yes, so here we go.
Perfect. Let's see, I'm just trying to bring up the WebEx on my other screen, but I'll go ahead and just forego that for now. So yes, I am a current employee of Rush Enterprises as a senior business analyst, class of 2009 over at Our Lady of the Lake University. I'm going to keep it pretty short. The agenda I kind of put together today after seeing the last presentation. Jose, I was taking some notes from yours as well and modifying my presentation as we went through of things I left out. So I'm going to start off with a brief bio, some company background and pre-COVID environment. And of course, I'll get into the post-COVID and how the pandemic has impacted not only my department, but a little insight onto how it's impacted the company as a whole. Little bit about me. I started right around the time I graduated with my master's, or my undergrad rather, getting into the finance industry. USAA, my first position, home equity loan counselor. I worked my way up into projects and ultimately workflow administration. I worked at Washington Mutual shortly thereafter. You may not recall Washington Mutual at this point, but they were a victim of the housing crash catastrophe that happened around 2000 or in the late 2000s. And then I went to Frost Bank because of that. Frost Bank was primarily a savings and loan type entity. They stood a great bank, 200 years in business approximately, and from at that point, that's when I got into my business analyst type role. Shortly thereafter, Wells Fargo, business systems consultant, same position essentially, and I spent about 4 to 5 years there. I then went to KCI, switching industries entirely. KCI, Acelity, is medical supplies. One thing to note is that my degree and my education really made it easy for me to switch industries and have an open mind and my choice of profession. I support business systems. I support technology. That's what I do today, and that's what I've always done. And one thing that I realized in 2015 is I can go anywhere with this. So that's kind of a testament in and of itself, and that switching from a strong financial background going into medical supplies, albeit I only was there for about a year, but still there really wasn't much difference when it comes to supporting your customers and their technology needs. And that brings me to my current position, which is Rush Enterprises. That's where I'm at today. We are a trucking company. I I say trucking company, but really it's a service center type company. We are the all service. We service all kinds of trucks on the road you see today, big rigs, um, crane, bus. We service all of those. It's preventative maintenance, oil changes, everything from that to engine rebuilds. A lot of technology goes into supporting that, as well as truck sales. Truck sales, you see LD, MD, and HD. That stands for light duty, medium duty, heavy duty. We sell all of those items. We are the largest Peterbilt sales corporation or sales outlet in the country. And we are coast to coast essentially. So we support a lot. And of course, crane sales, bus sales, and then you got part sales, which we sell all the parts that go into trucks and whatnot. Let's see. I just realized that this is probably being shared. Let me move this over. Okay. My role specifically at Rush comes into the project management office. We're an agile shop. What that is a project management methodology, which means everything we work on has to do with the computer systems that support sales and service. It's a lot of customer relationship management tools. It's a lot of workflow management tools, and it's a lot of scheduling tools. All of those in various types of software deliveries that we support. I am working on customer relationship management, otherwise known as CRM. We support the sales of trucks and parts right now, and we will be branching out to support all of the customer calls and customer contact centralization moving forward. We also have custom apps, and I kind of did that in reverse, but custom applications we still have, and those are the homegrown applications where we hire developers within our company to develop a software to meet a customer's need. And what that means is they are building something completely custom, and it's not like something that's nationally adopted, as I mentioned before, which was customer relationship management software tools out of the box, such as Salesforce and Dynamics 365, supported by Microsoft. So that is, I know I kind of rushed through that, but that's our company background, really. We're a trucking company, we do service, and we do sales. And to give a little bit of more background about how our company works, we have a corporate office in New Braunfels. And this is where we get into the pre-COVID stuff. We have our IT department and we have our business, which support the staff that does vehicle repairs, and they do sales of vehicles. Our project management office works to deliver changes to those software applications as well as modify and build. It was a very in-house effort. We all reported to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 typically. We did have some remote capability in that we all have, laptops, we all have virtual meetings, and we all are equipped to do that at any time, as well as our business side of the house. We're all very mobile. So post-COVID, it really wasn't a big shift to go into a home office type environment. The only thing that really changed for me personally was I took over the dining room table with my laptop and, some screens. And really, from a technology perspective, working from home was not a big deal for anybody. The only thing that really did impact us was, one day we get an email on March 18th of last year telling us we've had our first in-house COVID positive case in our building. When that happened, our CEO sent out a personal letter or an email to all of us, basically stating, go ahead and go home in an orderly fashion and take what you need with you. Monitors, keyboards, chairs, any office supplies you may need to set up your home office. And that is what we did. It was a mass exodus. On that very same day, by lunch, the building was completely empty for a deep clean. And it was pretty much from one day to the next, we were working from home. And again, it wasn't from my, department and my area. It wasn't a big deal because we already had a lot of people working from home, because that was their schedule, or we always have that option to us. So really where it hit our organization was staffing. Our company had been expecting a downturn just based on trends already. So we held off, our CIO and COO held off on bringing in new positions or hiring additional people at the beginning of the year. So we really didn't experience layoffs, or we didn't experience, people being let go in a mass fashion in the IT world. However, in our service side and our part sales and our vehicle sales, that's where we saw a significant cut in reduction in force, simply because a lot of the products were no longer being delivered to us. So Peterbilt, Hino, Isuzu, as well as our parts, we saw major supply shortages, and we were unable to really push sales in that regard. So we did see some cuts there. Projects and priorities, it all became about supporting the staff and supporting areas that did make us money at that point. So that's where we really, really focused on ensuring that we supported the troops, I guess you could say, in selling and their day-to-day jobs. Morale, it was real. I'm a very social person, and I require a lot of face-to-face, as most business analysts do. And what I found is, while it may be a little depressing working from home in your own bubble, it really brought me closer to my family. And there was always virtual happy hours at the end of the week, which was nice. So as far as morale goes, yes, you lose a lot of face-to-face contact, but for me, the relationships just got stronger with the people that I work with, and it really showed everybody how much we care about each other, and we were able to really come together and stay and do the right thing for our customers. But that is where we are at post-COVID. And really, that's my daughter, my son working from home as well, full-time students. That's my workstation up top in the left. So yeah, again, taking over the dining room table. That's my temporary office, Tuesday through Thursday. Mondays and Fridays, I'm actually in office where nobody else is, and that's probably even more depressing than being here at home. But yeah, it wasn't a huge shift for us at all, working from home. But that's pretty much all I have. Sorry if I kind of rushed through everything, but I haven't done a presentation in a while for people that I don't work with. But that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Thank you, Isaac and Jose, for this amazing presentation. That was awesome. So I see that some interesting questions are coming through. Dr. Mayhami, can you please capture some of these questions?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Our first question is from Mitchell, our undergrad student, and he asked Jose about what has been the hardest adjustment you guys have had to make to the COVID-19 that has made an impact on making CPS Energy better.
Yeah, so that's a that's a good question. We actually have talked about this, right? And I kind of mentioned it a little bit, right? But our norm was always to work in the office, right? So if you ever, we had actually been exploring for a while, hey, can we have a work from home type policy? And we always wanted to kind of try and figure something out, right? We even had some things at work that we had teams that were developed to kind of look at what could be some nice things to do, right, for employees. And one of them was, well, maybe we can come up with a way on how we could work from home. And a lot of people were like, oh, no, you can't do that. There's no way we're going to be able to do that. That's not what we do. And, a year later, I'd like to hear anybody on our team say basically that that can't happen, right? So you do have some that are, we have to have them at work. It's just run our plants, right? Go out and do repairs on our system. You got to have those folks at work. But for the most part, a lot of the folks that can work remotely. We've all learned that, hey, we can do that. And so that's been probably the best thing. And I think it's going to make us better as we come out of this and continue to work in that manner.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question is, what made you stick with the CPS Energy for this long?
So it's the people, right? So we have a really good group of folks at CPS Energy, and I've been very fortunate to go around the company and work in different areas. Started off in the power plants, went to our line side of the business, which is where with our linemen, the ones that go out and do repairs when our power's out, and worked with our customers and customer engineering for anybody who's building new homes or new apartment buildings and all that. Got to work with customers on that side of it, but it's definitely the people. People are great. Everybody is very motivated, always wanting to do the right thing, and it's just it just feels right, and so that's always been for me the big thing. It's the people.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Isaac, we do have one question for you, which is, according to your background, what has been the best environment from your perspective that has helped you improve the most?
So when it comes to background, I know I've hopped jobs a lot, and just a little insider, that's the best way to get significant increases in your salary. But at the same time, when you do that, you sacrifice, longevity, promotions, and the ability to advance. When it comes to the best environment, I would have to say any environment where you're learning. In my profession, I love to learn. I've loved being in school, and it's an ongoing journey for me. So knowledge is something that I love getting and attaining by any means necessary. And of course, the subject matter has to be engaging, right? So when I went to Rush, I found the perfect fit, and I hope I retire there. This is the job that I probably love the most, simply because it's trucks. It's something that I kind of understand, being that I have a pretty strong mechanical background as a hobby. So I really believe in the product, and I believe in what I'm selling, and I believe in what I'm doing and supporting. When I was in the financial industry, I was working in short sale primarily, which is, homeowners can no longer afford their homes. So they're selling it at a loss to the bank, and the bank approves it. And it's a loss for the bank, yes. And it's selling a person's home. It was a pretty dire job, and I was supporting the systems that went into those sales. So it just wasn't a right fit for me. Now that I look back in retrospect, from there, I went into the medical industry, where we were selling, not selling, but we were supporting the systems that went into selling wound vacs. I'm not going to get into too much detail about what wound vacs are, but it's disgusting, and it's a vacuum for wounds. So I'll just leave it at that. And it was a therapy. So we were supporting the systems that went into that, and medical is just it wasn't the right product for me again. So Rush, again, I love the company. The company, they make the right call, they make the right decision. And in my presentation, I got into, my department really wasn't impacted by the downturn, because we were preparing for it anyway, but it was a massive downturn. And my company actually it did something that I've never seen any other company do to avoid layoffs. And that was, they did a temporary pay cut for not only our executives, who took, as most did, 25% of their annual salary. They let us opt in to do that as well, as opposed to, you know, bloodshed, which was, amazing to me. Most companies are just, they're cutting staff left and right just to save, their place in the world. But that showed me that this is a company that I want to be with until I retire or, you know, for long term. But yes, any environment where you're learning the most and you really believe in the product and you believe in what you're doing as a company as a whole. So that is what has helped me improve the most. Good question.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We do have a couple other questions. Melanie asked, it is expected by 2025, 70% of the workforce will work remotely. What sectors of the business do you think will remain remote? You can either, do you want to catch this one?
Sure. So anything IT, I work in IT again. I've said it a million times, but I really think anything IT related project management offices will be remote. I think that is probably even more advantageous for a corporation to elect to do is allow for anything IT related, obviously, to work from home. Some of the things that I don't see going to a remote environment are going to be our service centers, anything where you need to engage with a product before you actually sell it or service it. That I believe still requires face-to-face action. One, because customer is dropping off something that we need to work on, and they really need to trust the people that they are dropping it off to. Our CEO has said time and time again, we still have employees that must come to work every day, and we have got to support them, even if it is in a remote fashion.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. The next question is for both of you, actually, and this is because we are uncertain of when COVID will end, how and when will you determine when it will be the best to allow employees to come back to the office and have one-on-one interactions?
Jose, would you mind to go first, covering that question?
Sure, I can go. So
Thank you.
no, it's a tough question to answer, but I'll tell you that for CPS Energy, we were one of the first to kind of adopt an environment where we have different groups, right? We call them we have an orange, white, and blue team, right? And our orange teams are the folks that can work remotely. The white teams are folks that like supervisors and all that we expect them to come in from time to time, but they can still work remotely. Then our blue team are a lot of our folks like service centers and things like that, right? That you have to have there, right? And so, um, one of the things that Paula says often, right, is we were one of the first to come into this working environment, and we're going to be one of the last to go out, right? And so we're very cognizant of what our employees are having to go through, right? We want to ensure that when we allow them to go back to work, it kind of ties into, what their families are doing as well, right? Because we understand that everybody may have to still take care of folks at home, and whether it's parents or kids or whatever. And so we want to ensure that our folks are ready to come back. Plus, we provide a service it's a huge necessity for the community, right? We have to be able to support our customers with power and gas, and so we want to ensure that we don't rush into it and are cautious and ensure that we're going to have our employees safe so we can continue to support. So it'll probably be a while. I mean, you'll probably have some other businesses that open, I would say, before we got to that point, just because we are definitely measuring the risk and want to ensure that we minimize it as much as possible.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you. And the next two questions is for you, Isaac. The first one is, are there any offices here in San Antonio from Rush Enterprise or company branch? And how do you all work with schools? Do you all partners with school districts?
So to answer the first question, the main office corporate is going to be in New Braunfels. I live on the south side of San Antonio, so when I do go into the office, it's about a 45-minute commute, which isn't bad. We do have a location here in San Antonio, which we do parts, service, and truck sales, and that is off of I-10. I don't know if commuting from Houston back and forth, our service center had the big Peterbilt truck in the sky for a while there. Now it just says Peterbilt. As far as how we partner with schools, I'm not really sure. Other than the school buses we service and sell, I think that's the only connection that we do, and we do partner with school districts in that we do fleet sales to them. The Bluebird school buses and whatnot. But yeah, that's from my knowledge, that's the only connection that I have or that I see.
Very wonderful. Thank you. And this is another interesting question for you, Isaac. And from the picture you provided in your presentation, do you teach your kids what you do on a daily for work?
They witness it. They're always, walking back and forth as I am in meetings, or I, am taking care of what I need to take care of for work. So yes, they do see what I do on a daily basis. When I did work from home before, I did go to a couple of career days, and the reputation I had was I would stay home and watch Netflix all day, and that is not the case. I am, working. I'm in calls. I'm troubleshooting, helping my colleagues out, and they witness that now. So the oddest thing is that they're on Teams, and so am I. We're all on the same platform. So their school has adopted Teams, Microsoft Teams, to facilitate their classes and communication and assignments. And I am using the same exact platform. So we have the same gripes about the system, and they're interacting with their peers in very much the same way that I am, which is very, very odd to see. But that's to answer the question. Yes, I do teach my kids, and they teach me.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's all I have on my side. Dr. Ahmadi, do you see any other questions? You are mute, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I have one more questions to Jose. Do you have experienced any increase or decrease of the customers' demand during the COVID?
And the question was directed around customers, you said?
Yes, the customers' demand, maybe they have issue with electricity. So I'm just wondering whether this COVID has impacted the request you are receiving from the customers.
So, I'll tell you from the construction side of folks building in San Antonio, that has not slowed down at all. And which is a good thing, right? Because that tells you that a part of our industry in San Antonio, which is building houses, is still going strong. And so we have not slowed down on that. I'm sure you see apartment buildings being built all over the place as well, and new retail sites. And so from the construction sense of it, it has not slowed. On our customer service side, we did see an increase in some of the activity, but it's mostly just because we are calling out to customers and ensuring that they're okay, right? Because we know a lot of customers have been impacted, and maybe their spouse or themselves lost their income, right? And so we've been reaching out to them and ensuring that we set up payment programs with them, or work with them to ensure that we have them on some sort of program so that to help them with their electric bills. But those are really the biggest effects that I've seen. But yeah, contrary to belief, probably it really has, construction has been pretty strong in San Antonio still.
I see. Thank you, Jose, for answering this question. So we are at 1:20, and let's conclude this session. Again, thank you everyone for attending this session, especially Jose and Isaac for answering these questions and these amazing presentations. It was a pleasure to have you both with us today. So we would like to conclude this session. Keep in mind there are two more sessions, 1:30 leadership studies and 2:30 computer and information sessions. So please feel free to join those sessions if you are interested. So again, thank you everyone for attending. I hope that you have enjoyed and learned from this presentation. So thanks again, everyone. Dr. Mehami, do you have any comments?
No, thank you so much. I also thank you, Isaac and Jose, for their presentation, and all our attendees. I personally enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too, and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you everyone. Take care. Have a good weekend.